There's a vicious cycle that 90% of contractors are stuck in that is like a giant sucking noise in a vortex that sucks away your time, and it sucks you into it. If you're stuck in this vicious cycle, you have to do something. You're never going to get out of it automatically. You're going to have to make some changes. And the first thing to do is identify, I am stuck in this vicious cycle. Hey guys, Todd DeWalt here from Construction Leading Edge. Thanks for listening to the Construction Leading Edge podcast, where we're all about helping you systematize your business. Let me ask you a question. I'm curious if you're dealing with something that we hear from, frankly, most of the people we talk to every week. If you own a construction business, or if you lead projects, or if you lead a construction business, do you feel like you just don't have enough time? Are you maybe spending too much of your time putting out fires? Spending too much of your time running out to job sites, running out of the job's trailer, out to the job, dealing with customer fires, maybe dealing with problems that could have been avoided, or maybe dealing with problems that it seems like somebody else should be handling, maybe somebody who's on your team, maybe somebody you're paying that should be handling this stuff. Are you working more hours than you want to? We talk to a lot of people who are working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. It's been that way for months, maybe years, with no light at the end of the tunnel. Do you feel like you start your day with a plan, you have a to-do list, but then it gets hijacked by all these problems by other people? Then it's the end of the day, it's 5 or 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and you haven't gotten started with anything. Maybe you have to do your work at night after everybody leaves you alone. Maybe it's, there's the statement from the ancient philosopher Mike Tyson, who said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Maybe you feel like every morning, every day, you're getting punched in the mouth and you just throw the plan out the window. Maybe it feels like you own a job, like you're handcuffed to the business, and instead of driving the business, you're just kind of being drug along behind the business, right? So if that's you, we're going to talk about 4 simple adjustments that you want to make if you want to get more time. Specifically, if you want to free up to 40 hours a month of your time without hiring someone and without joining a monastery and becoming a monk, right? And I'll also tell you some details about a 28-day challenge that we just launched that will help you. It is I'll talk about some more details, but you can get all the details on this 28-day challenge over at constructionleadingedge.com/save40. It's a 28-day challenge. Show you how to save 40 hours a month guaranteed. Again, you can check that out over at constructionleadingedge.com/save40, save40. All right, so let's get into the 4 simple adjustments you want to make so you can free up 40 hours a month, so you can have more time without hiring someone and without running away and becoming a monk. All right. The first adjustment is to stop believing the, quote, I don't have time lie, right? You have to stop believing the lie that you don't have time. So think about Jeff Bezos. The guy built Amazon. He has tens of thousands of employees. He's basically changed the entire global economy and does all sorts of things. So obviously, somebody that successful and somebody that effective he has more than 24 hours a day, right? He clearly has more time than we do. Otherwise, I would be as effective. So how can he possibly have the same 24 hours we do? Well, obviously, he does have the same 24 hours a day, the same 168 hours a month, or 168 hours a week. And if you think about the successful people that you look up to, they have the same time as you do. It's how they use their time. And we'll talk about in just a second. Sometimes it's what they do, but it's also a lot about what they don't do. So here's what Bezos said about time creation. Like, forget about time management. I'm not interested in time management. I'm interested in time creation. He said this: you need to be able to prioritize. You need to be able to think systematically. But if you're not good at deprioritizing, you won't be good at prioritizing. Let me say that again. Bezos said, if you're not good at deprioritizing, you won't be good at prioritizing. Bezos emphasizes the need to identify high-value activities that align with your goals and invest your time and energy in them. Focus on the tasks with the most significant impact that can optimize and drive results. So think about that word. Let's go back to that word. That this word stuck out to me, deprioritizing. He said, if you are not good at deprioritizing, you won't be good at prioritizing. So think about that word, deprioritizing. What do you think that means? Deprioritizing. So it means not every task is created equal. Not every task on your list has the same impact. Not every task has the same leverage. Not every task is created equal. So according to Bezos, you need to do 3 things, right? If we break down that statement, number 1, you need to identify your high value activities. Number 2, these high value activities need to align with your goals. So that means you need to have some goals, right? If you don't have any goals, maybe that's why every activity seems to be the same. And then number 3 is to focus on the tasks that have the most impact. What are the things that you need to be doing, right? And I'll talk specifically about how you can do that in just a minute. But let's talk about some of the common problems, some of the time and energy sinks, the time sucks that we get into where the time goes. So here are some really common problems that I've seen after coaching hundreds of construction business owners. So number 1, there are just simply too many things on your list. You simply have too many things on your list. You have this to-do list of 20 or 30 or 50 things that need to be done. They all seem to have the same importance. Of course, they don't. And you just have too many things on your list. Here's one of the most common ones is task switching all day long. Task switching all day long. An email comes in, you hear the notification, so you look at it, you respond to that, then, I need to get this estimate out, so you start working on that, and then somebody calls you, you get another message, another idea pops into your head, and you're constantly switching. Or somebody walks into your office, hey boss, I have a question, what do we need to do about this? Let me help you. Constantly task switching all day long. It is not effective. Another common problem is you're just trying to keep everything in your head. Trying to keep this running total, this running tab of everything that you need to do in your head. And that just doesn't work because when it's in your head, it all seems to have the same priority. It all kind of jumbles together. You forget things and you probably focus on what's right in front of you, what's most urgent, and you may forget about the stuff that's most important, right? This happens a lot with construction businesses, leaders and owners. Constant interruptions, just constant interruptions, right? And then there are all these urgent fires that have to be put out. Like, this is urgent. There's a problem. There are people standing around on the job site. There's a truck waiting. There's concrete that needs to be poured. This needs to be unloaded. Where does it need to go? Urgent fires that have to be put out. And it feels like you need to stop doing what you're doing and deal with that. So think about it. You have too many things on your list. You're constantly switching from task to task to task throughout the day. You're trying to keep it all in your head. Constant interruptions. Urgent fires that need to be put out. Does that sound familiar? So let's think about this. I want you to do some quick math. On average, how many hours a week would you say you spend putting out fires, dealing with these urgent matters and interruptions, right? Think about that. How many hours a week get gobbled up dealing with urgent matters, fires that have to be put out, phone calls that come in, people that walk into your office, you have to run out to job sites. If you think about just a trip to a job site to look at something, you might spend, maybe it's an issue that just takes 5 minutes on the job site, but how long does it take you to get there? And then what else do you get into while you're there? And then how long does it take you to get back? And then how long does it take you to get back into the groove of whatever you were working on, right? You can't switch tasks instantaneously. The brain just doesn't work that way. So think about that. On average, how many hours a week would you say you're spending putting out fires? Is it 8 hours a week, 12 hours a week, 16? I've talked to people who have said, I spend 20 or 30 hours a week putting out fires. So here are a few strategies that we found. If you find yourself putting out fires and dealing with constant interruptions and constantly switching tasks, or if you just want to have more time, if you feel like you want to have more time, you need to understand that you don't need more time. What you need to understand is you need to have more focus, and you need to focus on the high impact activities and make better use of your time. That's how successful people do it. So here are a few tips that I'll share with you. Number one is you've got to understand the 80-20 principle, also known as the Pareto principle or the Pareto rule, Pareto's law. And it, in a nutshell, it means that 80% of your results will come from 20% of your inputs. Maybe 90% of your results will come from 10% of your inputs. So a couple of practical applications. 80% of your profits probably come from 20% of the type of projects you do or the customers you work with. 80% of your problems come from 20% of your employees, or 80% of your problems come from 20% of your customers. So if you can identify the 20% of your activities, these are the high impact activities that Jeff Bezos was talking about. What are the high leverage activities that you can focus your time on? And then identify the 20%. And then let's not worry about the 80% activities. Those activities where you could spend 80% of your time and you're just not going to move the needle very much. So identify the 20% activities that will yield 80% of your results. Focus on those. And then number two, put those activities on your MIT list. The MIT list, that stands for most important things. This is not a to-do list where everything seems to be of equal priority. The MIT list has things prioritized. You have your A priorities. These are the 20% activities that will yield 80% of your results. Then you have B priorities. Then you have maybe C priorities. But everybody should have an MIT list. What are the most important things you need to do today? And there are probably 3 to 5 most important things that will really move the needle that you need to get done today. Same thing for this week and for the next 2 weeks. And every project probably has an MIT list. Guys, what are the most important things that have to be accomplished this week on this project? And that keeps everybody focused. So use the 80-20 principle, create your MIT or most important things list. And then number 3, this is a huge time saver, is to batch activities. Use batching of your activities. And batching means to group similar tasks together and do them at the same time, right? So, for example, let's say you order the roof truss package for a house. Think about what the truss factory does. Do they build a truss and then they run it out on a truck and drop it off one truss at a time? No, they wait until they have a batch, or maybe all of your roof trusses. They put them on the truck, run them out to the job site and drop them off in a batch. Think about how a lot of things are delivered, a lot of things are made. If you were in the t-shirt business and you were taking t-shirt orders, you would probably wait until you had a batch of t-shirts to make and then make them all at the same time. So you want to do the same thing with your day-to-day activities. Block out time and approve invoices at the same time. Have a block out time and have a batch of invoices. Let them stack up for a day or two. Batch responding to emails. Maybe once, twice, 3 times a day. Block it out on your calendar for responding to emails. Reviewing financial reports, reviewing questions, reviewing daily logs, whatever repetitive activities that happen throughout the day, create time and batch those activities. Do them together. That will eliminate a lot of this task switching that gobbles up your time. Number 4, this one is huge, is to schedule deep work sessions, at least one deep work session a week, so that you can actually think. And especially if you are a business owner, you have to understand that your business, your employees, your customers, your trade partners, your suppliers, everybody you work with, they're counting on you to do things that only you can do. And in many cases, those things are not happening. And a great way to make sure those things happen is to schedule deep work sessions. And a few best practices for deep work sessions. Number 1 is get away from your office. Be gone. Be somewhere else. Right? Let your team know that you're off the grid for 60 minutes or 90 minutes at a time. Go somewhere else. Put your phone in airplane mode or do not disturb, and treat this time like a meeting, right? If you were meeting with a customer, you wouldn't take phone calls, I hope. You wouldn't allow people on your team just to barge in and ask a question. You wouldn't stop what you're doing and run off to answer some problem if you're in a meeting with an important client, right? So you need to think about these deep work sessions as an important meeting with yourself. Put it on your calendar. Let your team know you're not available. You'll get back to them afterward. Schedule deep work sessions for the things that really need to be done. So number 1, 80-20 rule. Number 2, MIT list. Number 3, batching of activities. Number 4, schedule one deep work session a week, 60 to 90 minutes. You'll be amazed at what you can get accomplished in 60 to 90 minutes of uninterrupted time. A little trick, something that I just started doing. I bought a timer, a focus timer, and I set the timer for 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and I work until the timer goes off with no interruptions. And then when the timer goes off, I pause, check on things, take a break, and then flip the timer back over, go for another 15 or 30 or 60 minutes, and then work without interruptions, completely focused for a short amount of times. You'll be amazed at what you can get done. Number 5 is to turn off hijacker notifications. That is to turn off hijacker notifications. And those hijacker notifications I'm talking about are on your phone, right? I saw some pretty alarming statistics that the average adult receives 131 interruptions a day between text messages and app notifications, right? 131 interruptions every day. So if you work a 10-hour day, that's 13 interruptions per hour, one less than every 5 minutes. And if you're a business owner, chances are you get a lot more notifications than that if you have those notifications turned on. So what you may want to do right now is hit pause on this podcast and go turn off notifications. Figure out how to turn off notifications, because you don't need to be notified every time there's an update, every time somebody liked one of your Instagram posts or commented on a Facebook post or sends you a message. You don't need to be notified. But the problem is those software companies want your attention. They want your attention. So there are billions of dollars every year being spent trying to hijack your attention. And those notifications are one of the best ways they can do it. So my advice is turn off hijacker notifications. Go turn off those app notifications. You don't need them. You don't need 131 notifications a day. And let's face it, if you're younger than that, or if you have employees who are under 25, they're probably getting a lot more than 130 notifications a day, which, if you think about it, isn't that kind of a productivity issue? Isn't that kind of a safety issue to be interrupted every 4 to 5 minutes? Yeah. So there you go. So first adjustment is you got to realize it's not a lack of time. Don't believe the "I don't have time" lie, and start taking control of your time and creating it. The second adjustment you need to make, if you want to create more time, if you want to free up time to work on your business or just free up time to do the stuff you want to do, to actually have a hobby or spend time with your family or be able to take a vacation, is you need to deal with the root cause and stop dealing with the symptoms. To deal with the root cause and stop dealing with the symptoms. All right. So much time is spent dealing with symptoms, repetitive problems, solving the same problem over and over and over again, right? We're going to solve problems, but let's make them new problems. Let's stop solving the same problem over and over and over. There is a dead simple but incredibly powerful method that you can use to get to the root cause of a problem, and it's called the 5 whys method, right? The 5 whys method. Here it is. Step 1 is to pick a painful problem you're dealing with. What is the symptom? What's not going well? Where's the chaos? Where's the friction? And clearly articulate what it is. And then step 2 is to ask, why is this happening? And you'll come up with a reason. Step 3 is to ask, well, why is that happening? When you think about that reason, why is that happening? And then you'll go one level deeper, and then you'll continue asking, well, why is that happening? And then why is that happening? And why is that happening? Until you don't have any more answers. When you get to the point where you just say, that's just it. There is no reason why. And at that point, you have arrived at the root cause of your problem. I'm going to run through a few quick examples, and this may make some more sense for you. Here's a real life example that I went through with one of our clients who is a remodeling contractor. And the problem, or the symptom, was our projects are consistently finishing about 2 weeks behind schedule. Okay, that's the symptom. That's the observable fact, right? We're not speculating. We're looking for observable facts. The observable fact is we were supposed to finish on September 1st, and we finished on September 15th. Boom. Step 1, why did that happen? Well, the painter didn't finish on time, okay? So if we pause right here, what a lot of people are guilty of doing is treating symptoms, right? Well, the painter didn't finish on time. So let's go beat up the painter, threaten to backcharge the painter, force the painter to work overtime, call the painter, bug the hell out of the painter because the painter is the problem, right? Let's dig into this a little bit more. This is what actually happened. So the project was 2 weeks late. Why? The painter didn't finish on time. Okay, well, why didn't the painter finish on time? Well, the trim crew was late and delayed the painter. Okay, well, why was the trim crew late? They didn't have the material on time. They didn't have all of the material they needed to finish the job. Okay, why didn't they have the material? Well, it turns out the GC didn't order the trim package on time. It was a 2 to 3 week lead time, and they ordered it a week before the trim guy started. Okay, why didn't we order the trim package on time? Because it wasn't clear who was responsible for ordering the trim package. Steve ordered it last time. Steve thought Tom was going to order it this time, and it slipped through the cracks. So the root cause had nothing to do with the painter. It actually had nothing to do with the trim guy. The root cause was the general contractor had a lack of clarity around roles and responsibilities, right? Let's look at another one. This is another common one. My superintendent isn't completing their daily logs and they're not doing their schedule updates. It's very clear. They're supposed to do daily logs every day, schedule updates every week. It's not happening. I'm getting pissed. I'm thinking maybe I'm going to have to fire this guy and replace them, right? Okay, let's dig into this. They're not doing daily logs. That's the observable fact. All right, why? Let's talk to them. And he says, I don't have time. I'm working 10, 12 hours a day already, and I just don't have time to do daily logs. All right, well, why don't you have time? Turns out that he's spending a lot of time answering questions from customers. Okay, what do you mean? Why are you spending a lot of time? Well, the customer sends multiple questions every day, all hours of the night, and they want a weekly 3-hour walkthrough every Friday afternoon with their job site. And it just turns into this Pandora's box of questions. Okay. Why are they asking all these questions? Why are they asking for a walkthrough? Well, they have lots of questions. We dig into it. They have lots of questions. All right. Why do they have lots of questions? Well, they don't know what's going on. The customer doesn't know what's going on. And they've lost a little bit of trust because there was this little hiccup at the beginning of the project where we missed something. And if we're really being honest with ourselves, we dropped the ball and they don't trust us. Okay. All right. Why do they have all these questions? Why don't they trust us? And you get to the root cause, which is we aren't sending out updates. We're not communicating effectively. We're being completely reactive. We're just sitting back and playing defense and waiting for them to ask questions. And here's what I've learned about customers. Customers in a vacuum of information will project their worst fears. Okay, let me say that again. In a vacuum of information, when there's no information, they will project their worst fears. They will speculate and they will conjure up these stories of what's going wrong, and they will not trust you. And when they don't trust you, when they don't trust you, they don't have confidence in you, they start asking lots of questions and they start to micromanage. So in many cases, we think, they're just a pain in the ass. But the root cause is not that they're a pain in the ass. The root cause is they don't trust us. And the root cause of that is we dropped the ball and we're not communicating effectively. So this one tip saved a builder that I worked with a few years ago named Jeff from Canada. It saved him 40% of his week. He said, I started doing this and I immediately got back 40% of my week. And that thing he did was to start sending out weekly updates, to send out a simple weekly update to every customer on every project that says, here's what we did this week. Here's what we're going to do next week. Here's what we need from you. Here are the open issues we're working through. And here are some pretty pictures of your work. And by simply pushing information out proactively, he saved 40% of his week. So a question for you is, are you being proactive with your communication or are you being reactive with your communication? Something to think about. One final example for a business. This is a very common one. The observable fact is we got to the end of the year and our profit margins were too low. We worked really hard all year and our bottom line was 2%, 4%, 6%. Not enough for how hard everybody on the team is working. All right, let's dig into that. Why is the profit margin low? Well, our revenue is too low. Our ratio of revenue to overhead is off. We're looking at our job cost reports. We're making money on the jobs, but our revenue is just too low. Why is that? Why is our revenue low? Because of inconsistent workflow. We have these peak seasons and then we have dry spells. We have this roller coaster effect. All right. Why is that happening? Because we have inconsistent sales. Okay. Why are sales inconsistent? Well, it's because we really look at it. Nobody is focused on selling at times. Okay. Why is that? Why isn't somebody focused on selling? And the root cause is it's because the owner does the sales and the owner is spending too much time in day-to-day firefighting, too much time running out to job sites, too much time running around picking up materials for their crew, running around dealing with customer issues, putting out fires. So that the root cause of low profitability is often the owner is just spending too much time in firefighting mode and can't do sales, right? So now that you're equipped with the 5 whys method, you can get clear on the root cause. And once you're clear on the root cause, you can actually fix the problem instead of continuing to deal with the symptoms, right? So wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice to actually solve some of those repetitive problems that come up on every project, or they come up every month, or they come up every payday, or they come up every time you try to close out a project? So here's a question for you. What is a repetitive problem, a chronic problem that you deal with regularly? Maybe it's every pay period, every payday, every time you send an invoice out, Every time you hire a new employee and it doesn't work out, there's a problem. Every time you try to start up a project or close out a project, what's a repetitive problem that you want to get rid of? And then I would challenge you to go through that 5 whys exercise and get to the root cause. And then once you have the root cause, you can actually solve that problem. Okay. Adjustment number 3 is you've got to get out of the vicious cycle that 90% of contractors are stuck in. There's a vicious cycle that 90% of contractors are stuck in that is like a giant sucking noise in a vortex that sucks away your time, and it sucks you into it, and it's possible to get out of, but you have to make some changes. If you're stuck in this vicious cycle, you have to do something. You're never going to get out of it automatically. You're going to have to make some changes. And the first thing to do is identify, I am stuck in this vicious cycle. So let's walk through this. There are 4 steps to this vicious cycle. We have to break it. You have to make a change and get out of this vicious cycle. So step 1 is doing just enough to start. We call this the JETS trap. And it's like a trap that you step in, and you do just enough to start at some steps, maybe every step along the way. So you do just enough to get a free estimate out the door. And if you're doing free estimates, you need to stop because it's probably killing your bottom line. And that's one of the main reasons that you don't have time. We'll talk about that. I talk about that a lot. So you do just enough to get an estimate out the door, just enough to get a contract signed, just enough to start the project, just enough to get site work or clearing or demo started, just enough to get the framing crew started. Maybe you do what a lot of people are guilty of, and you tell your superintendent or your crew lead, hey, we're going to start a new job on Monday. I'll meet you out there Monday morning with the plans, and we'll kick it off, right? Maybe you tell your electrician, I didn't really have time to package this up for you, so I'll meet you out at the job. I'll walk through that with your guys on the fly, and we'll go from there. Tell your plumber, hey, start roughing this stuff in. We got to pick out a few more fixtures, and we'll fill in the gaps soon, right? So that's step 1. Then step 2 in this vicious cycle is you have created these gaps and missing details. There are things that are not ordered, and there are a whole bunch of things that, quote, get figured out later. We'll figure that out later. We don't have time for that. We'll figure that stuff out later. We'll figure that out in the field, right? This sets off a domino effect of chaos. There are all these last-minute decisions that need to be made. There are problems that nobody thought about. There are all of these. When you start off by doing just enough to start, there are these problems, these dormant problems in your project, just laying there, just waiting. And they've been there the whole time, but you don't realize they're there until it's time to order material. It's time to get somebody scheduled. It's time to do something. And you realize, oh shit, we forgot this, or we need to order this material, but it hasn't been selected. And then what they selected, the vinyl tile they selected. Here's a real life example. We need to install the vinyl tile in the cafeteria. All right. The crew's going to be here. It's Thursday. Today, the crew's going to be there Monday. We need to get it selected. So let's call the client. Hey, client, we need to pick the VCT for the cafeteria. No problem. They come back with their selection a couple of days later, of course. And what they selected is out of stock, and it has a 2-week lead time. So what do you do then? You go back to the client and say, we probably should have told you to select from this limited palette of options that are available. And then the client says, I picked what I like, and that's what I want. So now you have a 2-week delay, and there's a premium, or you have to pay the expediting charge. So that's one of the traps, one of the dormant problems. It's just laying there waiting to happen. It can be avoided, but because you do just enough to start, you hit it, you run into it, and the trap springs. Okay? So then there are all these last minute decisions that need to be made. Your team has questions, your customers have questions, your trade partners have questions. So who do they call? They have to call you, and they call you all the time. Am I right? Does that sound familiar? So can you see how doing just enough to start is keeping you stuck in firefighting mode? It keeps robbing you of your time. All right. So that's step 2. You have all these gaps and problems. And then step 3 is all the questions from your team, subcontractors, suppliers, and customers. You're in full-on firefighting mode, and you are consumed dealing with problems, not just on one project, but on multiple projects, all at different phases, all because you did just enough to start. And then step 4, you look up at some point and you realize we have to start another project, or I need to go sell some work because we're about to run out of work. So you scramble to get the next job, or you scramble to start the next job. And because you're so short on time, you do just enough to start, and the cycle starts all over again. Sound familiar? 90% of contractors are stuck in this vicious cycle, and you have to get out of it because it is absolutely robbing you of your time. All right, number 4, the adjustment. This is a simple but counterintuitive adjustment, but the 4th adjustment to make if you want to reclaim your time is to communicate proactively. Here's what a lot of guys do. They just put together just enough information to start for their team, and then they sit back and they play defense and try to answer questions as they come in. And they do the same thing with their customers. They wait until the customer has a question or there's a problem, and then they play defense. Or they say things like, we're going to over-communicate. I worked with a builder who said, we're going to over-communicate. When somebody sends us a question, we're all going to jump in on it, and we may have 3 or 4 or 5 people all answering this question in co-construct or builder trend. And if somebody calls in, we guarantee a response in 15 minutes or something like that, over-communicating. And that is an absolute time suck. So what you want to do is communicate proactively. Instead of waiting until the customer has a question or there's a problem, you want to be proactive. So instead of playing whack-a-mole, getting better at playing whack-a-mole, instead of getting better at being reactive and increasing your reaction time, you want to get proactive. So here's what you need to do differently. Communicate proactively with your team. Instead of giving them just enough to start, give them everything they need to finish their job. Anticipate the questions that they may have, and then make that information available to them without having to call you, right? One of your problems is everything is in your head, right? And when your expectations and the schedule and the process and what you want and everything about your business and everything about the project and every conversation you've had with a customer, when it's all locked away in your head, there's only one way for your team to access it. They have to call or text or email or interrupt you, right? So what you want to do is package this information up, make it available to them somewhere that they can access it without having to call you. Push information out to your team proactively. Anticipate their questions. Don't just think one step, think 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps ahead of what they might need. Package that up, make it available to them before you get started. You also want to be proactive with your customer communication, right? And part of being proactive, I think I talked about this a few minutes ago, part of it is sending out those weekly updates, but you also want to set expectations with your customer up front about how you'll communicate and when you will communicate. You get to do that. You get to set expectations. If you are tired of your customer calling or texting or emailing you at 9 o'clock at night and expecting a response, then you need to set that expectation up front. This is when we communicate. This is when you can expect a response from us. Here's the hours that we will respond. Here is the time frame in which we will respond, and here's how we will respond. you don't have to be a call center. You don't have to respond to every text message. They don't have to have your cell phone number. We work with a lot of the builders we work with. They run 100% of their customer communication through their project management software like CoConstruct or Buildertrend, right? They funnel everything through that platform. That's how they communicate. So communicate proactively with your team, communicate proactively with your customers, communicate proactively with your trade partners. Think multiple steps ahead, right? And here's a bonus. I touched on this a few minutes ago, but if you are a home builder, a remodeler, or a commercial GC doing small, say, TI projects or ground up construction, light commercial general contracting, then let me ask you this. Do you give away your time in the form of free estimates? Do you give your experience and time away in the form of free estimates? If so, how long does it take you on average to put together an estimate? Is it 6 hours, 8 hours? Maybe if you're like a lot of custom home builders, it takes 30 hours or 40 hours to put together. We're not just talking about an estimate, but a detailed proposal, right? There's a lot of work you have to do to give somebody an estimate. And how much time does it take you to put together a detailed proposal for free? And then how many hours a month are you spending on free estimates that don't go anywhere? If you're like a lot of people, when you do the math, you realize I'm spending 6 hours on an estimate and 4 of them a month don't go anywhere. That's 24 hours. Or maybe you realize you're spending 40 hours a month on free estimates that don't go anywhere. So what if you could eliminate all of that wasted time? Just eliminate the time spent with tire kickers and time wasters and unqualified leads, people who are never going to do a project with you. And here's the deal, all right? Free estimates are a huge time suck. They're a huge time suck. Looking back on it, when I was doing remodeling and building custom homes, I did free estimates because that's what I thought I had to do. I thought that was just the cost of doing business. But now I realize that was a huge time suck. They're also the source of a lot of the chaos and profit bleeds on your projects. Think about those gaps. When you put together a free estimate, you don't have time to make all the selections, so you put allowances and gaps. And then, frankly, there are just things that get missed, questions that didn't get answered, design work that wasn't completed, and you have all of these gaps. And then you sign the contract, and then it sets off this vicious cycle that we just talked about. So one of the ways to get out of that vicious cycle is to get paid for estimates. It's possible. It's good for you. It's good for your clients. It's good for everybody for you to get paid for estimates, right? So we've helped hundreds of people, builders and remodelers and general contractors, end the practice of free estimates. So it is possible. You can do it. And you need to, because it could be killing your bottom line. It's very likely a huge time suck from your time. So I want you to think about this. Picture this. Let's say 1 month from today, or 2 months, 1 to 2 months from today. Imagine that the following things are different in your business. First of all, you have 4 to 8 hours a week with no interruptions to work on your business. You have, say, a 4-hour block one day and a 4-hour block on another day of deep work time, no interruptions. You can work on your business. How would you spend that time so that it would give you the most bang for your buck, right? If you had 2 or 4 hour deep work sessions, what would you spend that time on? Would it be selling, maybe working on marketing, training your team, growing your team? What would you spend that time on? And then imagine that you have your to-do list at the beginning of the day, or you have a plan, and then you actually get to work on your plan. You get to plan your work and work your plan. And at the end of the day, you can check off most of the things on your to-do list. Imagine that your field team, your field crews, your trade partners have all the information they need in advance, and your phone just rings a lot less. Imagine that you actually get your work done during the day. between whenever you want to start and a normal stop time. Imagine you could end work at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and then you're done. You're not answering phone calls or emails or texts after hours. Imagine that you're getting paid for estimates. Imagine that things just feel more in control. Things are more stable. You're off that roller coaster ride, and you can actually think and plan further in advance. From chaos to control. What would that do for you? Well, if that's something you're interested in, if that's something you're looking for, if you want to reclaim your time, then as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we're running a challenge. It's called Chaos to Control, the Streamline Your Construction Business 28-day challenge. You'll learn how to free up 40 hours a month of your personal time, even if you're working 70-hour weeks and you don't want to hire anyone and you don't want to become a monk, right? Guaranteed. We guarantee that you'll free up 40 hours a month. All right, let's talk about this guarantee. When you join this challenge, this 28-day challenge, we guarantee that you'll save 40 hours of your time and eliminate $5,000 in profit bleeds in the first month after the challenge ends, or we'll give your money back, right? We're also throwing in a bunch of bonuses that you can get all the details on over at constructionleadingedge.com/save40. That's SAVE 40. Constructionleadingedge.com/save40. So here's the deal. There are a limited number of spots available in this challenge. We're going to be kicking off this next round of the challenge very soon. There will be live group coaching calls, and we'll be supporting you. My team will be coaching you, giving you the resources you need, providing the accountability. You'll go through it with a group of other construction business owners, and we can only help a small group of people at a time. So when it fills up, it's full, and you would have to wait until the next one. So if you're ready to have more time, and to be specific, if you want to have 40 hours of more time every month, go to constructionleadingedge.com/save40, SAVE40. You can get all the details on Chaos to Control, the Streamline Your Construction Business 28-day challenge. One last time, that's constructionleadingedge.com/save40. I hope to see you on the inside of the challenge. Thanks for listening to the Construction Leading Edge podcast. If you get value out of this podcast, if you could leave a rating and or a review on your podcast player of choice, that would mean a lot to me, and it will also help spread the word. And if there's somebody else you know in your network who could get some value, if they're a construction business owner or a leader, and you think maybe this person could get some value from listening to this podcast, share it with them. Send them a text, send them an email, tell them to check it out. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. And hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to check out the show notes for more details over at constructionleadingedge.com/podcast. And if you get value out of this podcast, would you do me a favor? Would you please leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you own a construction business and you feel stuck, or you feel like you're spending too much time in day-to-day firefighting, maybe dealing with all of the problems, if everything's stuck in your head, or if you just don't feel like you have time or energy to work on your business because you feel like you're stuck working in it, if you want your business to run without you so you can take a vacation, or maybe to be able to sell your business one day, or if you just frankly want the business to survive if something happens to you, then there are 4 crucial systems that you need to have in place. Number 1, if you're a home builder, remodeler, or a commercial general contractor, you have to get paid for estimates. Those free estimates are killing your bottom line, sucking the life out of you. And you can get all the tools you need to get paid for estimates, the templates, sales scripts, pricing guidance, and let's face it, the confidence that you need. You can get all of that for free right now over at constructionleadingedge.com/start. You'll get the entire Get Paid for Estimates masterclass. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/start. You can get all of that for free. The second crucial system is that you need to design your business for the future. You need to establish the major functions of your business and the results that each function is accountable for. You need to have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. This is the foundation of every successful business, and the best way to do that is to design your accountability chart for the future. Number 3, you need to design and document your process to nail the handoff from the office to the field. This is a very disciplined and documented process that maps out every step of the pre-construction process. Look, companies that are good construction companies are actually good pre-construction companies. They're good pre-construction companies. And when you design your nail the handoff process and you have this in place, this is going to eliminate 80% of the profit bleeds and the schedule delays and chaos on your job sites. And you'll also need to learn the secret sauce for getting your team to actually implement and follow a process. Number 4, the fourth crucial system are the leadership systems that your team will use to convert your goals into reality. Look, somebody needs to be planning tomorrow's work today. Someone needs to be doing a 2-week look ahead. Someone needs to be establishing the most important things for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And you need to be having regular team meetings that are actually functional. Those are your leadership systems. And if you would like our help putting those crucial systems in place in your business so that your business can run without you, so you can get out of day-to-day firefighting and take that firefighter hat off, or if you want to be able to sell your business one day, here's the next step. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply and schedule a free business evaluation call with our team. On that call, we're going to do a few things. We'll help you uncover the real root causes of your problems. Number 2, help you get clear on your objectives that you want to accomplish. And then number 3, to map out a plan to make it a reality. We'll also share with you some of the things that our construction business owner clients are doing to accomplish their goals and solve the problems that you're probably dealing with. And then if you're a fit, if it looks like we have a good mutual fit, we'll discuss our Systematize Your Construction Business program. So to schedule your free business evaluation, head on over to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY. Hey, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.